Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to NYFA Photo Events. Today, we are honored to have with us Robin Schwartz. Please leave your questions in the Q&A. There is no one that captures the essence of the relationship between humans and animals like Robin Schwartz. From the time she was a teenager painting monkeys and cats, Robin has explored interspecies relationships with the most sincere devotion, sometimes requiring her to immerse herself in diverse cultures throughout the world. Her devotion to animals and those who care for them have produced images and commissions from the most prestigious magazines, including Time Magazine, the New York Times Magazine, the New Yorker, and the LA Times. Additionally, it has also won her 2 Aperture books, as well as a couple of other publications, a Guggenheim Fellowship, the Times Top 100 Photos of 2022, as well as many other accommodations. Robin says, photographing animals and the people that are devoted to animals is what I have always cared about and the driving force in all my work. Photography and animals are my passport to each other. I see animals as my spiritual connection, my religion, my vice, my addiction. Animals calm me, comfort me, they save me. So here she is, my dear friend and colleague, Robin Schwartz.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome. You take it from here.
Again, thank you, Nancy, for inviting me, and John for fixing my audio, and all your tech organization, and Charlie for your patience there. As with all my presentations, I have stage fright, but Nancy really wanted me to do this, and I'm doing this for you, Nancy, and it's probably good for me because I also teach thesis, and my students, not photography students, have to do these presentations. The first part of my presentation is a 6-minute and 40-second video that I updated in 2022 for a presentation at Rutgers University. So it's like 2 years back, but I learned how important audio is after hearing a friend's voice after she passed, and I teach with this approach now. This keynote is modified from my 2019 presentation at the SVA Theater in New York called Inspired. 12 photographers and editors had 6 minutes to present a 1-minute introduction and 16 slides on a 20-second loop. I'm trying to keep that format. I only want to photograph animals. With the exception recently of rescued flying fox bats, I do not do wild. Editors have taken a chance on me for animal-geared assignments. All have included people. Photography has been my passport to connect to specific animals and their interspecies relationships. These experiences are paramount to photographing. I am educated every day by other photographers. This presentation shows only my early influences with selected publications. I was born attracted to cats and primates, and I painted them. I stole neighbors' pets thinking I was saving strays. My second book, Dog Watching, is about my obsession with specific breeds in their environments and hanging out with dog packs. At 19 years old, I identified even more with strays after my father died and my mother lost our home. My Pratt graduate teacher told me to photograph what I cared about. Captively bred primates, ranging from gorillas to marmosets, were published in my first book, Like Us, Primate Portraits. I am especially drawn to animals coexisting in urban locations. In 1987, I photographed Arabers, men with a long history with horses. They reminded me of my grandfather, a junkman with a cart horse. We connected on an animal level, and they liked my photos of primates and dogs. I was thrilled to ride a horse on the streets of Baltimore. Mary Ellen Mark's photographs fascinated me. I wrote to her in 1990 on the back of a large test strip of a monkey. She invited me to her studio to show my portfolio. She sent me to 5 people, including the editor of Life magazine. This serendipitous photo of my daughter, Amelia, and Ricky began our ongoing project. Aperture published 2 books on the Amelia series, Amelia's World and Amelia and the Animals. This project saved me while I juggled motherhood, a dying mother, and proving myself at university. Rousseau was my childhood painting influence. Under pressure, when I photograph, I must brainstorm, shoot fast, and go with the flow of the animals, and not stress anyone out. No one is trained. When the animals or my daughter were done, the shoot is over. Not until I photographed the swimming pigs in the Bahamas for a New York Times Magazine Voyager assignment did I realize the painter, Rousseau, is always in my head. Sally Mann's dedication gave me the willpower to continue photographing Amelia, despite being advised by several university administrators to stop. I have learned not to engage with negative comments, not to quit what I love, and to tolerate those who judge me and do not know my circumstances. Philip Halsman's photo of Salvador Dali had to be my influence here. Our cat, Hannah, really did like flying. My girls are both brave, tolerant, and smart. Our not brave or coordinated Sphinx child cat, Jacob, played it safe in his cradle. I love deer and identify as a deer in the headlights. Amelia has always had an unspoken, low-key manner with animals. Fashion is now a component in the new work. Emily and Baby, the latter surviving as a triple amputee, was saved by a superhero-loving caretaker. The story of rescued foxes bred at a coat fur farm was published in National Geographic. The rescued bobcat was an outtake bred on the fur farm for coats. This was part of my Guggenheim Fellowship project on caretakers and those they rescue. I am attracted to specific looks. These are my current dogs. I love the unique rescued gray-headed flying fox bat with a genetic mutation. Again, the Guggenheim Fellowship enabled me to go for my dreams and photographed rescued flying foxes in Australia. My first photographic hero, Eugene Smith's work, is in my head. His empathy and respect for whom he photographed guides me to photograph caretakers. This rescued flying fox bat with his broken back being devoured by maggots did not survive. I always think they will make it. Some died in my hands. A Time magazine editor believed in me for this story of Travis, 30, a veteran, and Ziggy, 29, for the story Strong, Smart, Service Monkeys Give a Helping Hand to People with Quadriplegia. Travis, medically fragile, was home alone during the day. Ziggy saved his life multiple times as he retrieved a dropped cell phone so Travis could call for help. That was an edited version of the SVA presentation. My friend Nancy Berwick thought I should add publication assignments after my cancer diagnosis. My editors kindly waited until I finished the semester to have me photograph the cover for the New York Times Magazine. This was a follow-up to an assignment started a year before. Having the cover was my dream bucket list. Every time my editor called me to plan, I was at a lab undergoing mammograms and biopsies. Just as I was about to fly to cancer at the end of June 2019, the call came that I had breast cancer. I told no one save my husband, went on the assignment, and tried not to think about having cancer in my body. When I returned, my editor connected me with a surgeon at Sloan Kettering in New York. I had aggressive cancer and was started on AC chemo on my birthday the next week. The print cover and digital publications came out a few days earlier. I had a solo exhibition coming up in September at Photoville in Brooklyn. The founders, Sam and Laura, took care of everything. 2 profiles were published on me, a big one on page 2 of the Sunday New York Times. That's supposed to be a big thing. Kathy Ryan, director of photography of the magazine, photographed me and Indy. I needed my dog. A Google ad with my New York Times Magazine cover ran for a year. It took me 9 months to realize they forgot my credit line. They added it. Indy went to all 5 months of chemo and subsequent 17 infusions. I did not have a port. I have needle PSD. With AC chemo, 10 days after you start, your hair begins to fall out. That broke me, and I stopped talking for a while. What got me out of bed in April 2020 after surgery, ER visits, and radiation was a Wired magazine photo assignment, shuttered at home. I barely noticed COVID. I had been shuttered for 9 months. I'm immensely grateful to the editor for this gift, whom I met at the New York Times Photo Review the year before. Depressed by my chronic lymphedema, the New York Times helped me mentally with an assignment photographing my cats in our bathroom last April. The article is about Charlie Mingus's pamphlet on potty training his 5 cats. My outtakes on Instagram are funnier. I could not have done this shoot without Amelia's help. This August, 6 photographers went on assignment around the world to photograph their dream vacation, somewhere where tourists could go. I wanted to go to the animal cafes in Seoul, South Korea. I photographed 13 locations in 10 days. Amelia went with me to Seoul, as I was unsure of my health. I wear a compression garment on my hand and arms, and a different one to sleep in. I am on nerve pain and penicillin medications and have limited range of motion in my left arm. I am in love with these raccoons, especially Princess on top. I learned meerkats are a gang of mischievous thugs who like to lay on top of sleeping ferrets. There is so much more to this story. Eventually I will put these and the outtakes on my website. It felt fantastic to be a working photographer again on a big assignment. This helped my sanity and confidence and enabled me to go solo to Istanbul for my exhibition. I am thankful to the editors and curators who trust my eccentricities. CNN emailed me the first inquiry for photos of the year selections about including my work from the self-assignment South Korean cafes in the New York Times Voyager issue. Publication of one of my photographs became real when Time magazine's feature of the top 100 photographs of 2022 was published. I was flabbergasted, thrilled. The same photo had been selected in CNN's email. What really made my heart soar was making the cut for the New York Times Photos of the Year. I was told that few photos from the New York Times Magazine are selected. The publication of a different photo from Time Magazine's selection and that of my favorite, the raccoons, was an added gift. Now I'll really start my keynote and talk for real, and you can see how really goofy I really am. So I'm just gonna play this slideshow, and then we can talk later. So there'll be some duplication with the photos and the video. So Amelia is my greatest accomplishment, even though she doesn't believe me. But to my absolute amazement, the Amelia and the Animals project is what I'm acknowledged for. I wanted to show the video because I've done other things and I do other things, but this is what I'll show in my keynote now. Sometimes these projects overlap with photos of my daughter. I have been posting ongoing fellowship project on caretakers and whom they rescue. Right now there's just what I call flying fox heroes, women who have saved flying foxes. I went to Australia twice, and after that I'll start posting work that I did in India of women who are saving dog packs. The rescued foxes from the fur farms are on Instagram as well. And I had an exhibition in Italy, and I just wanted to add that I hope at some point you go to on Instagram Save a Fox. The incredible woman that I photographed, Michaela, who started this when she was 23, This is a trigger. She was very bullied online, enormously. And, 2 weeks ago, she couldn't take it anymore and she, she died. She, she left. She committed suicide. And, some of my friends now are bullied, on Instagram and online. And it's a really horrible thing. Back to my work. I had not set out to photograph my child. I'm a working mother still, perpetually overwhelmed by never-ending deadlines while I attempt to navigate the responsibilities of finally being a tenured professor. Um, I teach photography and general thesis at William Patterson University. And by general, I mean most of my students rarely are photo majors now. They're animation, graphic design, and painting. And I help them with exhibitions and actually talking. Hard to believe. I still try to give my grown daughter what she wants, manage a household, my animal companions, 2 cats and 2 dogs, endless school responsibilities, and then I try to produce art. My office is in shambles and I'm years behind in my editing. Amelia and my meetings with animals are still profound, complicated experiences that transcend my inadequate explanations, but just maybe something in the magic we encounter gets into our photos. For me, photography is all about the experience and then the memories. Every photo has a backstory, which I have little opportunity to share. My first book, Like Us, Primate Portraits, and now the last Aperture book seem to prove to animal people that I am trustworthy. I honor those who trust me. For what I do, trust is everything. I will start with the backstory of Amelia and Ricky's chance encounter and how this photo started our ongoing 23-year journey. That said, it's a matter of trust that I get led into photograph. I now take into consideration that attitudes have changed about animals and ownership. My Primate Portraits book gave me street cred to talk my way into photographing a 2-year-old chimp. Because the location was an outdoor event, I brought my 3-year-old daughter and husband along to watch the appointment that I was photographing, and then we were going to go to the fair. It's a blur now, but somehow Amelia and Ricky, a year apart, connected. It was love at first sight and a big hugging fest. Ricky and Amelia fell off the chair holding on to each other, and all there was astounded about how they bonded. I photographed with 2 cameras, my usual black and white and on a Lark color film. We gained trust from Amelia and Ricky's interaction and were invited to meet the family's lemur and pigtailed macaque the next day. Amelia was nonplussed when Elmo, the lemur, flew over her head. This photograph was up at Tim Barber's 20th anniversary Tiny Vices exhibition at the Whole Gallery in Soho, along with an early elephant photo that Tim also published. After those experiences and the photos that I made, I needed advice about that work and just how to proceed in photography, given the confines of motherhood and teaching. I was still in touch with my Pratt graduate school teacher, Phil Perkis. I showed Phil my contact sheets and he told me to photograph Amelia in color, and I have ever since. Phil gave me support and legitimacy to photograph my daughter seriously for a project. I am indebted to Phil for his advice. I had been lost in new motherhood, not knowing how to be a productive artist. I had too much anxiety to leave my child and travel as I had for previous projects. Being a small woman, photographing animals and now my child was really not okay. I did not want to be accused of making snapshots. Taking Phil's advice and Amelia's ease with our animals and other animals, I photographed at home and during the summers. As I exhibited at faculty shows, University administrators negatively spoke to me about my photographing my daughter, suggesting I stop. Not being tenured yet made this stressful. The first Aperture book of Amelia photos in 2008 didn't make a difference. What changed my life for the better was an invitation to present my photographs of Amelia at the 2012 National Geographic seminar. From that talk, I got a few editorial assignments, but it was the Guggenheim Fellowship in 2016 that made me legit at school. I am glad that it is acceptable 23 years later for the current generation of mother photographers to document their children, their lives, and their struggles. When Amelia was born, my artist husband quit his framing business and became Amelia's primary caretaker, while I worked to secure steady income and health insurance as a photography professor, commuting 50 miles a day. As said, I was hardwired to be with my daughter as much as possible. Photographing Amelia and animals were the only portraits that made me want to work. For the previous 20 years, I had only cared about photographing animals. I have not changed. Amelia was the newcomer to my pack. It was confusing to navigate all the advice I was given about raising Amelia, especially about animal contact. The best advice that felt right came from observing primates. Skin to skin and eye contact while breastfeeding. Sleeping together was criticized, but how are we to put Amelia in a crib cage alone while we slept with 2 dogs and 2 cats? Our animals were physically next to Amelia and bonded with her like nannies, especially my beloved whippet, Rebecca, who was always tucked in with Amelia at bedtime. No problems getting Amelia to bed. Before Ricky, Amelia was predisposed to liking monkeys through her monkey dolls, one of which was my childhood main squeeze, and he's wearing my baby clothes. He's up at the top. At 2 years old, Amelia made us dance with her toy monkeys. These monkey dolls were taken everywhere. They had distinct personalities and became my grandchildren. A children's book of these photographs will be published this year in France and in Italy. At 2.5, Amelia met little Amelia. They really liked each other. This is my friend Allison's rescued capuchin for helping hands. And I named, Amelia was named after this capuchin, whom I photographed extensively 10 years earlier. And that's a story for another time. My husband says Amelia was named after his grandfather's last name, Emil. That makes it okay for him. Little Amelia died at approximately 45 years old in 2013. This is my Amelia saying goodbye to little Amelia at her funeral. The Amelia and Nora photograph was inspired by Velázquez's Las Meninas painting of the Little Princess. Amelia, 4 years old, is with our first rescued Chinese-crested Nora. This was the first photograph I took after quitting photography after my mother died 6 months earlier. My attitude about death and facing my own mortality is dark. I thought maybe my photos of Amelia, who was so laid back with animals, would be a way to remember me after I was gone. To my regret, Amelia and I are both only children. I was brought up with what might be called a very old-fashioned way and not shielded from illness and death. Then my father died suddenly just after I turned 19, and that really whacked me out. Photography has always been my therapy, and of course, animals have been a necessity for my mental and physical survival. Here are generations of our beloved household cats and dogs. The wedding dress is my mother's and mine, which I shredded at our backyard wedding. I got married at my cat brother's grave in Englewood, my in-laws' house. Amelia had mutual loving and caring relationships with her first pack of household animals. That's Nora. And Amelia was very protective of Nora. She's very sweet to her. Jacob, our pink cat child, was a greasy sphinx. And he had to have these baths. He would leave brown marks on like sheets. He hated and feared his baths, and we needed those glass doors to keep him in. Jacob slept in our arms. Jacob loved Amelia to the end, and the picture with Amelia on the left is just 4 days before he died, and he was purring and happy to be up in the tower with Amelia. Amelia forbade me to make any more references to paintings of the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus, because I thought Jacob looked good there as baby Jesus. Our beautiful whippet, Rebecca, was Amelia's sister. Becky had a brain tumor in many of these photos. We took turns sleeping on the floor with Becky because of the aftermath of the seizures. Amelia was 10 and woke us that very last night for the worst seizure. Amelia was never again connected like she was with Rebecca. Hannah was our fierce, mischievous, but brilliant, petite, oriental short-haired cat. Hannah was a diabetic, and we gave her subcutaneous fluids for her kidney failure. She long outlived our veterinarian's prognosis. I felt that Hannah stayed alive out of sheer will for me, following me everywhere at home while I went through chemo, surgeries, and radiation. It was like we were surviving together. She seemed to wait until I finished with radiation to die. I honor her with these photos. A student told me about the Catskill Game Farm, and she told me to go there. I learn a lot from my students. I was really happy there. We were happy there. Above all, photography is a passport to our experiences beyond the outcome of the images. After all these years of photographing, my daughter, husband, and I have had the most extraordinary experiences. We met an incredibly kind third-generation elephant trainer, a true elephant whisperer. Our families connected over the years. At the Catskill Game Farm, we experienced the gender differences in deer. Boys are demanding and confident. Girls are gentle and boys are pushy. Girl deer were shyer and stayed back until the boys were separated due to their antlers losing their velvet and being really sharp to fight other males in rut in the fall. I photographed in situations where caretakers were kind and let us into their lives. I trusted them. As said before, earning their trust is paramount. Amelia made direct conversation with Sheba. Sheba picked Amelia up on her command over and over again. We went back to visit Sheba later that summer, and we found out that she'd been deported back to Canada for not having the proper paperwork. It took us 3 years to make the trip to visit Sheba. There we met a lemur named Pete, and his photographs in that Aperture limited edition print program. My daughter has always been more than sweet. She's very smart and proud to be physically strong and tough, and maybe a bit macho. From early on, Amelia was an innovative problem solver. We cooperated as a team. Amelia's demeanor with animals is always calm and quiet. These are rescued baby horned owls. She's empathetic. This is Louie. And she seems to communicate with animals. Amelia earned this kangaroo mouse's trust without asking. Amelia placed her hand inside Mouse's pouch and felt a very small pinky that's even smaller than a Joey, who had not peeked out yet or been checked at that early stage by Heather, an educational caretaker. Heather told me she watches how each child interacts differently with animals at the school she visits. She said that Amelia had an aura. That was the first time an animal caretaker talked to me about how Amelia specifically related to animals. Heather brought Mouse and her Joey to our home for a photo shoot, for a TV shoot. I have an ongoing deer thing. This is Nifty. She lived to 15 years old. We have visited Dilly 3 times over the years. Dilly, disabled with partial blindness, lived in a house with Melanie, an extraordinary veterinarian. There's a New Yorker article now about Dilly, and she has a book, and some of my photographs are in Melanie's book. This is the most beautiful girl deer. Her name is Snowpied. While Amelia was researching a 7th grade geography homework assignment on articles from newspapers in Africa, she found a syndicated article about a two-faced Janus cat named Frankenlouis. I tracked this anomaly down to Massachusetts. I photographed Frankenlouis over 4 years. My photos were never good enough. The second and last time I photographed, they're both 15 years old. Frankenlouis had 180-degree vision. One mouth was able to eat and the other drooled. Many different species have drooled and peed on Amelia. She's a good sport. Frank and Louis lived to 15 because of the extraordinary care by Marty, a Tufts University veterinary surgical tech, who became his forever caretaker at 4 days old. Frank and Louis is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest Janus cat. When Amelia was 10, she wanted to meet rescued primates. Back then, she wanted to be a primatologist, influenced by paleontology. I networked through my primate contacts and met Pam. We stayed at Pam's house to save money, and 3 years later, Pam and Carlene, another primate caretaker, flew up to attend Amelia's bat mitzvah. I love these women. I brought a trusted editor to visit them 2 years ago. Breakfast talk is one of my favorites from these trips. Before Rosie's rescue, she never ate fresh vegetables. It was a surprise to see how Rosie took to Amelia as she coaxed Rosie to eat one fresh pea at a time. Here starts teen young woman Amelia and a few from Tokyo last November. Savannah is a serval cat. This picture I call Angelica Touch. Frank is a flamingo, and here is Amelia feeding Daisy, who's being weaned off a bottle. Amelia's bottle feeding rescued orphaned fawns here a month away from their mandatory release date, just when hunting season starts. Deer are it's a very political thing about helping deer, rescuing deer, letting them out. It's different in each state. Then our companion animals here again, that's Ruby on the right, and my friend's Whippet, Tippa, who's very elegant, on the left. And my Ruby Whippet is here sleeping, and our second rescue, Chinese crested Nora, is on Amelia's lap. Yet again, I had to change to spark Amelia's interest in working with me. Amelia had to collaborate as a full partner with ideas and many times directing me. Amelia loves fashion, so we more vigorously hunted thrift shops to incorporate fashion into the photos to show that we're all the same. Humans and primates are people. This series is also part of my fellowship project photographing rescued animals. The We Are All Primates series features 2 rescued primates, Caretaker Carlene welcomed us to stay in her home, generously feeding us and assisting me in every way. My intention with We Are All Primates and A Day in the Life series, that one's not included here, are to make elegant, graceful portraits of Amelia, Emily, and Baby. I always wanted to show a world where the line between humans and animals overlaps, is blurred, where animals are part of our world and humans are part of theirs. At the beginning of this 4-year project in 2016, Emily was 19 and Baby was 11. And Emily just celebrated a birthday this week as well, on July 4th, I believe. These portraits are influenced by the aristocratic formal portraits from the 16th to 19th century of upper-class Europeans and Americans. I had been immersed in these paintings, going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art regularly when Amelia was a toddler and beyond. The paintings were supportive guides. Then I was photographing more slowly with medium format film on a MoMA 7, which got really expensive. The Met was a great place to bring a young child. They have a cafeteria, and the security guards were really nice. And Amelia used to throw her monkey dolls up in the air. That didn't go over well at the MoMA, so I didn't go there as much. Baby, a triple amputee, was from a dog attack, was missing half an arm, a leg on opposite sides, and half a tail and a frozen middle digit. Carlene tracked down the veterinarian that butchered her surgery, painfully amputating her at the knee joint. Carlene had to introduce Baby to a healthy diet after figuring out that she'd only been on a diet of barbecued beans. Petite Baby would fall asleep in Amelia's arms, and Baby passed away suddenly in 2022. Just like photographing strays, my graduate thesis at Pratt was Pets and Strays, I'm still driven to depict our relationship with animals in the hopes that these moments convey the essential sameness of animals and humans. I still do not want to be separated from my daughter, even though we can set each other off in seconds, and we do. Meeting animals has been a way to lure Amelia to be with me and to work. I hope Amelia sees our experiences as a gift and another way to remember me. I'm still editing my fall sabbatical in Tokyo and Istanbul on human-cat symbiosis. Here are two from Japan. Marin on the left is a bingtong, which is a cat bear. Really big animal with a prehensile tail, and when it gets excited, it smells like popcorn, and it liked Amelia way too much. And Mango is a 5-month-old flamingo. They're born white. The animal caretakers who allowed us into their worlds said they saw their own children and their unique experiences with animals through Amelia's. Aperture made a video, a behind-the-scenes shot by my husband for Photoville exhibition. Seeing my husband's video edited together for the first time was unnerving. That was us, so far in the past, but not that many years ago. And it's all a blur, but the videos and the photos make it real, and it was real. I greatly miss my little girl, and it hurts to watch young children. My little girl, the one in the photographs, is like a nostalgic dream, hard to remember. Like remembering your senior dog or a pup. Seeing your dog as a pup or knowing your parents were really young, a lifetime ago. Although I was warned that Amelia would grow up and away fast, I just didn't get it. As a parent, I'm always a deer in the headlights. What I understand about myself is that I understand nothing until I experience it, and I'm not mature. I'm a slow learner, continually figuring everything out, even at this late stage, how to be a mother, and I continually make mistakes. Being a mother is confusingly hard. It was much easier and less painful to be a daughter, until too late I saw my daughter self through my mother's perspective. If only I could apologize to my mother. Only now that I have this mom perspective do I understand how painful and how great it is to be a mother. I am proud and in awe of the woman Amelia has become. I'm used to the Amelia who is taller, who can pick me up and corrects me quite a bit. I don't like that, but sometimes she's right. I no longer have the upper hand, and now we negotiate everything. Amelia and I are partners in a mother-daughter dance. Photography or a magazine assignment can entice her to be with me for a short period of time. I want to enjoy the privileged experiences we have. We are lucky. Thank you for your patience listening to my story.
Hey, Robin. Thanks for going through that. It's great. It's fascinating, honestly. I want to encourage our participants or our listeners to throw questions into the Q&A, please. We have a good 10, 15 minutes or so where we can sort of ask questions and continue the conversation. Um, and Robin, you've spoken with us a number of times. I love it every time. It's such a great story and great way of that you have connected the dots between your need as a mother and your need to be sort of an animal caretaker and be involved and your need to be an artist. And I think that's a really inspiring part of the process, that I think all of our students and listeners could really sort of learn from, which is that following and trusting the way you feel about the work you're making and the rest of your life is incredibly important. So thank you for bringing us there. Um, I want to sort of start first. I love all the references you did to other photographers and sort of the side by side imagery. That was really fun. Um, and I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit more about, talk about photography as therapy and how that sort of worked for you and what our students can really think about in terms of creating their own work and their own art. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Um, when I'm thinking about teaching, and I think that sometimes students want to be famous, and the most authentic thing they can do is photograph in their own backyard. Like, and so for me, photographing at first, when I was 10, I started photographing my cat because I was a latchkey kid, my parents let me have a cat inside because all the others got run over and the cat was inside. And so that was when I got married. And so, I, it made me happy, but also, it's a way of keeping memories. Also, I'm a frustrated illustrator. When I was a kid, I used to look at cards and collect cards and postcards. And I think that, for me, photography is like a joy. It's a gift to make those pictures. I painted also when I was a kid. I had free lessons in Linden, and then I outgrew the program. And so photography is an extension of me, so I could have that experience and I can keep it, but it gets me in the door because as you see, I'm not that slick. And so I use photography to take me places, and it makes me happy. Like seeing those, meeting those animals is the most exciting experience, even though sometimes it can go a little awry. That Bing Tong was a surprise. That big cat bear in Japan. Um, I make these connections on Instagram, but the pictures aren't always like the truth. They're a bit of a fantasy as well. They're not straight documentary. I always thought I was fine art, but I'm not sure what I am, but most people say you don't have to categorize yourself. There's an overlap. But I
Yeah.
don't Photoshop anything in. Like, I don't do that because I see that a lot now with AI. And sometimes I feel I'm fooled, but doing it for real, like, man, that's like really nice. I like it.
So it's a great point, right? And that brings up my next question, honestly, which is about access. And you sort of mentioned about connecting with people on Instagram. To make it happen and for real, you need access. You need to have a network of people and rescuers and animals and places that you can go. And Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that process look like for you? How did you connect with the owner of it's the Bing Tong, you said, right? And I'd love to hear the rest of that story too. Like what
Well,
happened there and the elephants and there's just so many different varieties of animals that you've been able to connect with.
in the very beginning, I put together, there was a place called Pearl Paint, a store, and I would get these little books. And, I was a darkroom person from, college to, I don't know, 2010. And so I would make these books with, I used to cut 5x7 black and white paper in half, and I would go places with these little books and show pictures, and I always gave pictures. It was really important to give back. So they trusted me, and also they knew I wasn't making fun of them. Like, people, don't trust you nowadays, and they see you. It's not like in Helen Levitt's time, like people didn't notice what she was doing. I liked her, and I traded with her twice. She was an animal person. But so now I have a website, I have the book, but mainly people go to Instagram. I mean, even my students still go to websites, which I wish they would do. They go to Instagram, and that's how they look at work. And that's how I communicate. So that proves myself. And, I just have to be cautious about like what I I put up. But recently I had an interesting experience where, a photographer from somewhere else didn't like what I was shooting and told me to change the hashtags and take it down. And I was with the National Geographic photographer on the 4th, and I asked her for advice. And because I was rattled, I don't like confrontation. And she told me to keep it up, that I went there in good faith. And, that was an interesting experience, which this bullying thing, and my friend, the person, committing suicide, was a big, that was a shock to, and
Oh, I'm sure.
somebody else. Like, this bullying thing is a big deal online. And, I had no idea how it, I'm seeing it in real time. I have a friend who's older, and he's writing back. He started a rescue sanctuary, and he's writing back and showing what's written to him. I have somebody in Mexico, the same thing is happening, and these are really good people. I've been there, and I don't know why people do this. This is a bad time in our history. I
Mm.
People should be kind and not judge things. I don't know if that was a weird segue. I'm sorry.
No, well, it's a very real issue. I'm sorry that you've been affected by it. It's not easy. I want to stick with that thread of question though, just in terms of access, because you were making these connections and gaining access well before there was Instagram, right? And so taking those books around, great idea. How did you find the folks to do that? What was that research like? How were you again
I
navigating that kind of world?
I networked with the Arabbers. A friend of mine did a story, Alan Joss, for the Washington Post. And my grandfather, he didn't who died when I was like 6.5, he didn't drive, but he had a horse and wagon. I'm really old. And I have this drive to, I went there, and I showed these men my work with monkeys, and I was doing pit bulls at the time. I was really into pit bulls and American bulldogs in the late 80s, early 90s, and I did a dog book with only breeds I like. I just want to do things I like, not worry about anything that's like commercial or, oh, I think that'll get published, because I do this for me, because I don't make money from that. I mean, I get paid for a magazine assignment, but I don't do many. But I teach for money and health insurance, and I know I've told you that. So, like, when I do my photography, it's what I care about, and there's a certain like sort of high or thrill about getting access. And after graduate school for a year, I sat in on a photo history class at Pratt, an undergraduate class, and I was hanging out with a dog pack in Fort Greene. And I don't know, and these little boys, I'm like the size of a 10-year-old boy, so I hung out with them too. And we played with these stray dogs. And there's some kind of like, I think people who do sports get a high. And there's some sort of high, like making that like boundary, like breaking through that boundary, dealing with, communicating with animals. It makes me happy.
I'm sure. And not everybody can do that, right? That's not everybody connects in that way. Pretty amazing that you can do that and Amelia can do that as well. You know, the sort of, and as you said, in the imagery, you're sort of photographing in the moment, and it's not always exactly what's happening there, but just her general expression of calmness and, you know, she looks gratified. She looks at peace in those images with the animals, even when there's kind of crazy stuff going on around. It's pretty amazing.
That's always a split second. I mean, it's like when I photograph, when she's done, or when the animals are done, we're done, no matter how cool it is. But it's only a split second, of like that moment. It takes, a lot of time, a lot of patience. There's frustration involved. You cannot control the animals. You don't control them. And I can't control her either. So it's like that she allows me, or allowed me to do it. I'm grateful. But yesterday I did something else. I have friends, I've had Whippets since 1990, and yesterday was my birthday, and what I did was my friends were doing dock diving in New Jersey. The dogs were diving off a dock and also swimming in an indoor pool. So I photographed that, and it was good because I use a Sony A9. It's a sports camera, and every time I do a shoot, it doesn't have to work out, but I learned something from it. It's like driving. If you don't drive for a couple of weeks, it's like a little harder to parallel park in New York. So, like, which I am really into. But so that's what I did yesterday, and I learned from it. I went to that B&H Build thing, and I found out about magnetic filters. So I had to use polarizing filter, and then I took it off, and I learned that at 24 it arcs in the corners, and I had to go to 35 so I didn't have black corners. And I mean, I wish I had like a group of photographers that I could ask these questions of, but I come from this old fine art world. I'm not a photojournalist, and so I'm always figuring stuff out, and the only way to figure it out is to practice and make mistakes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, making mistakes is kind of half the battle. We have a great question in the Q&A. I'm going to read it. So, as someone who is passionate about creative work and building a meaningful legacy, I wanted to ask, did you always envision your work being in major institutions like MoMA and the Met? And during quieter seasons or challenges, what helped you stay motivated and continue creating?
What about the collections?
Did you envision your work there? Is that sort of a long-term goal
Oh,
for yourself?
before the whole digital world, there was drop-offs at the Met and the Modern, and I don't, and so I had these relationships. I dropped my work off, and it was considered, you can't do that now. I had a mentor at the Brooklyn Museum, and it's a different world now. There are a lot more photographers, and it's much more competitive. So, um, I was just lucky with the thing I'm most proud of on my website and is my collections, that I'm in those collections. But I sort of think of it as a fluke as well. And the one cool thing was at MoMA, I got in 1990. It's a really long time ago, and I shook John Sarkowski's hand. He was there for the last year, and I didn't realize. And then he passed me off to Susan Kismarek. I didn't realize he made that decision, and because I'm slow, but I there were drop-offs, and that was like a thing to do at that time. It wasn't, I was lucky. times have changed.
Yeah, very
Answer
true.
that question? Does that answer that question? I don't see
Yeah,
it.
there's a second part of the question though that I think is worth sort of diving into. So the way it's worded is during quieter seasons or challenges, what helped you stay motivated and to continue creating? And in your presentation, you talked about a lot of challenges that you come up against and how photography kind of helped you get through them once you started shooting again. And I guess, we can sort of push that question to how do you find that motivation when things are really tough and really challenging? What inspires you to pick up that camera and keep practicing and keep creating work?
Well, I think that the New York Times Magazine and two editors that were kind to me helped because it gave me confidence. I don't have a lot of confidence and I'm in a bubble. Nancy spoke to me about like how I'm seen, and I'm in a total bubble here in New Jersey. My students don't know much about me. Maybe they'll go to my Instagram, they won't go to my website, and they're nice. I like them, but research is paramount for what I do, and curiosity. And so I felt like with my sabbatical going to Istanbul and and Tokyo, though I ended up doing exotics anyway, because I sort of networked. Um, I did cats because I thought, well, I'm old now and I started with cats and now I'm gonna end with cats. And I went to Istanbul for the second time and I was really happy there, like so happy. And and then I went to Japan, which is awesome. And like the thing I wrote to get the sabbatical was rejected. For the National Geographic has an explorer thing you can apply to, and I passed the first part because Sarah Lean helped me, and I didn't pass the second part because human cat symbiosis, it's not climate change, it's not something like sounds serious, but what I did was I ended up researching culture, and I did a lot of research into religion and culture and why that, and I wanted to see why that culture was so kind and incorporating cats into their culture. Because I think here is rough. Like the US is tough, and there's this kindness in Istanbul and in Tokyo, cats are part of art down for, hundreds of years. And that's how I got to that project. But I liked cats when I was a little kid. I haven't changed, but research is paramount. Does that answer the question? I seem to go in circles a little bit.
I know it does. It does answer the question. And we are it's 6:04, so I think we do need to sort of come to a close. Thank you all for being here. And Robin, thank you again for coming to join us. I love your presentations. I really, really enjoy looking at your work. So I'm so glad you're still making it and, keeping going. And you're not that old. Keep shooting. You're doing
Yeah,
great.
Robin, you're not that old. And it
I
was
know.
great. Thank you
I
so much.
apologize for the beginning. Thank you, Nancy. I don't know. I was, I get nervous, and I guess because Charlie went through all that and it shouldn't have happened, at the beginning.
No worries. It all worked out. It's all good. All right. Thank you again, Robin. And
Thank you.
thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Nancy. And we'll see you all
Thank
soon.
you.